Hey everybody. This is for 420, 2020. So we just are going to have one assignment today, but we are going to talk about one topic. I only have 15 minutes on this, so I'll try to get as much in there as I can. To get to our daily assignments, you can either go through agenda, and that'll take me into Supreme Court Part 2, or I can go to e-learning and look here, Supreme Court Decisions Part 2. So we're at the same spot. These are currently our open assignments. My suggestion is you work your way down through them if you haven't already. Don't forget we have 2 quizzes here that you do get multiple opportunities to take. So make sure you take advantage of, like this Bill of Rights, you have 2 opportunities. 1 through 27 quiz, you have 2 opportunities. So please make sure you take advantage of these. I did note, as people are doing work on like Bill of Rights and stuff, one of the things that I've seen them do quite a bit is not understand Bill of Rights is the first 10 amendments. So you can't put Amendment 11 in here because Bill of Rights is only 1 through 10. Now, when I look at this, there isn't actually a national law about drinking age. The rule that people can drink until age 21 is actually a law that exists in every state. So which of the Bill of Rights gives states certain powers? That's the 10th Amendment. The 10th Amendment says anything that is not specifically written in the Constitution is a power of the state. And in this case, if we're talking about drinking age, there's nothing about drinking age in the Constitution. So the states have the power to determine what age people can start to drink. You may argue, though, that, what about the 18th or 21st Amendment? That just allows the law to say if you can or cannot drink. So, anyway. There's a couple of other ones in here that people missed a lot. Like in most states, you're not allowed to marry your cousin, which is true. Indiana does allow you to marry your cousin. Wow. First cousins, that is. What would that be? States have the power to determine qualifications for marriage, such as age, relationship, things like that. So whenever we're talking about licenses and certificates, that would be a 10th Amendment issue. Okay, states have that power. All right, so that's the Bill of Rights practice there. What I would like to do, and again, I am limited in my time, so I need to hurry. Today we're going to talk a little bit about free speech. So I pulled up a current political cartoon. Should we be allowing people to go out and protest that everything's closed down? And the real question becomes is how far can the government go in restricting that? So First Amendment gives us the right to assemble, the right to protest, the right to have free speech. Can we stop people from going out and protesting? Now, it really comes down to usually one of 2 things, and we'll talk about this with the free speech, but you can do whatever you want as long as what you're doing does not infringe upon somebody else's rights. So in this case, if people going out and protesting the stay-at-home orders, is that endangering people? So, you could very well argue that that people going out and protesting is a danger because they're only going to spread the disease. So, it's a viable argument, most definitely, but I just thought I'd throw that out there today. So you can see our instructions today. Really, it's the third one that we want to pay attention to. This is the new one that we're going to talk about, judicial activism and judicial restraint. But what I'd like to do is just real quick talk about the role that landmark Supreme Court cases take in society. You got to remember, one of the things that the court does is the court gets to determine how a law is read or interpreted. So the court plays a role in that they get to kind of define new laws, whether or not they are constitutional or unconstitutional, excuse me. So when we look at the First Amendment, for example, it says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So in this case, the First Amendment actually has 5 parts to it. So you have freedom of religion, you have freedom of speech, of press, the right to assemble, the right to petition the government. Those are your 5. Excuse me. So the real question becomes, so we have this freedom of speech, but what does that really mean? In all cases, do we have freedom of speech? Is freedom of speech limited or restricted? Is free speech unlimited? Can I say whatever I want when I want? And I think the understanding is, no, you can't say always what you want to say. There are certain times, certain places that you cannot say certain things. We know you cannot say bomb in an airport. You can't yell fire in a crowded movie theater, because by saying that, that's going to cause panic. Panic then causes people's lives to be in jeopardy, and so therefore I cannot exercise that right. Okay? So what the 3 things we're going to be looking for is speech limited or unlimited? How do you make laws regarding free speech? How would the law actually be applied? And then what is a precedent? And we're going to kind of look through precedent, but I'm going to open this up real quick. And a precedent is a principle or rule established in a previous legal case that is binding or persuasive for a court. In other words, a precedent is when a court decides something previously and the next court ultimately will follow along what the previous court says. They are following precedent, what's been established before. Okay? So with this in mind, we had 3 cases here. We have Tinker v. Des Moines, we have Bethel v. Frazier, and we have Morse v. Frederick. All 3 of these are free speech cases that deal with specifically student rights to free speech. So I'm not going to go through these cases. I think you need to kind of explore that yourself. But one of the things that we always want to kind of look at is, we're going to look at this website called Oye. So I'm going to open this up so we can get over to Oye. And what Oye does, and this first one we're looking at is like Tinker v. Des Moines. So we have 2 people or 2 parties. We have the Tinker Party and we have the Des Moines Independent Community School District. We can see over here, for example, the date. We know that it was argued in 1968 and decided in 1969. Either one of those dates are okay, but people generally identify the year when it was actually decided. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. The cool thing about this website, if you're into this at all, now the Supreme Court does not allow video, but they do allow audio. So you can actually hear the arguments.
Number 21, John F. Tinker and Mary Beth Tinker, minors, etc. thou, petitioners versus Des Moines Independent Community.
So you can actually go through the whole court case and how they argued it in court. Okay, no video though. But we don't need to do that. We just need to look at the facts of the case and the question. So we can see the facts of the case. You have these 2 people. You have Christopher Eckert playing on public showing of support for a truce in Vietnam. He's joined by Mary Beth Tinker and later John Tinker. They wear black armbands to school. You can kind of see this. They wore these black armbands. And so they were protesting against the Vietnam War. But they wore them to school. Can they wear them to school? Through their parents, the students, let me back up. So the kids wore it to school, they were suspended, and so the parents then sued the school district. And what they sued them for was the students sued the school district for violating the students' right of expression and sought an injunction to prevent the school district from disciplining students. The district court dismissed the case that held that school actions were reasonable. The Court of Appeals affirmed it, which means they agreed with it. So the Tinkers Tinker essentially asked the Supreme Court to listen to the case. And here's the question that the court had to decide. Does a prohibition against wearing an armband in public school as a form of protest violate students' free speech protections? And what the Supreme Court argued was, they said the students do have a right to free speech. That, as it says, Justice Abe Fortas delivered the opinion the Supreme Court held, which means they agreed with that the armbands represented pure speech that is entirely separate from the action and context of those participating in it. Meaning, the armbands are purely symbolic, right? The court also held that the students did not lose their First Amendment rights to freedom of speech when they stepped onto school property. So just because you enter onto school property does not mean that your free speech can be restricted. Now, there are certain things that are restricted, right? Students can't necessarily wear a t-shirt to school that has a big pot leaf on it, okay? They can't wear... And the whole idea is schools need that the speech itself cannot be disruptive to the learning environment. That's going to be the key. So does wearing those armbands kind of disrupt student learning? And the Supreme Court ultimately rules that that no, it does not disrupt. What else we got? Let's look at this Bethel v. Frazier. So in this case, students had the right to do it. Bethel v. Frazier is another case, 1968. It's kind of interesting as well. So this is a young man who was giving a speech during like student elections, and he was giving a speech for one of his friends, and his speech it totally, as it says right here, the speech consisted of numerous sexual innuendos, mostly in reference to his friend's sexual prowess. If you actually want to read the speech is right there, and he basically talks about how his friend has a lot of potency and power and yada, 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 but it was very sexual in nature. And so again, what you need to do is you go to Oye here, and you're going to look up this case, and you can see that this one's argued in 1986. So now we're starting to get a little bit of time. So it's just a little bit less than 20 years. So at a school assembly, 600 school students were assembled. Matthew Frazier made a speech nominating a fellow student for elective office. In his speech, Frazier used what some of her observers believed was graphic sexual metaphors to promote the candidacy of his friends. So the question that goes before the court is, does the First Amendment prevent a school district from disciplining a high school student for giving a lewd speech at a high school assembly? What does the Supreme Court rule? They rule for the school district. In this case, the court found that it was appropriate for the school to prohibit the use of vulgar and offensive language. So, political protest, okay. Vulgar and offensive language, not okay. Let's look at one more. We got the third case, Morse v. Frederick, bong hits for Jesus and the First Amendment. So this is a case that deals with a student who, and I would highly suggest when you, is to look, this is a very good video on the case. Here's another one that kind of explains it a little bit more, but if we go, basically what they did is students unfurled this banner. Now, you got to keep in mind that this is during an Olympic year, so the Olympic runner was running through the town. And so the principal let all the kids out, and the kids were kind of facing, you can kind of see it with this image here, right here. So as the runners were going by, these kids unfurled this banner that said bong hits for Jesus. They were promptly suspended. They then brought suit against the school, and this is the court case. Does the First Amendment allow public schools to prohibit students from displaying messages promoting the use of illegal drugs? So we don't have to worry about the immunity part. I'm getting ready to run out of time here. So yes, the school can control. It's a drug message. Okay, so that's important to know. So what you're going to do, you will be going into this free speech case